Well, Christy, thank you so much for coming and being a part of the C19 Experience and sharing your story with us. I would love to start kind of at the beginning. Well, first of all, can you tell me about your husband? Tell me about your husband.
My husband, Rick Powell, who I lost to COVID-19 on November 18, 2020. We're married 30 years. He made it all the way. Our 30th wedding anniversary was November the 17th. And we had one of those big families, yours, mine, and ours.
Yeah.
And all girls. He was the dad to all girls. So
So he was powerful.
Yes.
He was a strong man.
Patient, quiet, the artistic guy, always into music, always into art, always into quiet.
Yeah.
But he was our rock. He definitely was our rock, and a wonderful man, and we had a lot of fun together over our years, and we had a lot of plans still coming up too.
Yeah.
He was still working. He hoped to retire at 70, and he passed at 67. But his sense of humor and his intelligence, I even tell all the doctors when he was in there, I said, he's the smartest man in the room, no matter where he is. So I don't know if the doctors at IU liked that, but it was true.
Yeah.
He was kind of our go-to, our Google guy.
Your Google guy.
Yeah, he could tell us and how to fix it and how to do it.
I love that. So he was diagnosed with COVID sort of after the beginning.
Kind of at the end, which is what is kind of amazing. It was in November, actually October, when he got diagnosed. He had been working at home since March. He worked for Defenders on the phone, so he had moved home. We knew that he had asthma and was kind of maybe the weakest link in our family. So he didn't do the grocery shopping. We didn't go out to restaurants, and many times
taking the precautions,
really. And we had our youngest daughter that lived with us, and she did almost all that stuff for us. I probably did more of going out and wearing the mask than Rick was at home, and he was a home guy, so he didn't mind. He had enough hobbies and collections that he could keep very busy. He didn't need to go out. But he did, though, have this big week in October, the week of his 67th birthday. He needed a cataract fixed, and so he had went to the Midwest Eye Institute and had preps for eye surgery for November the 8th.
Okay.
And they take all the precautions there too, and I had dropped him off. But then he also broke one of his teeth, and unfortunately he broke off the front. And so when he went to the
one
dentist,
of the most visible,
unless you're wearing a mask,
right?
So you're wearing a mask, so that was the only good thing about it. He was working at home where nobody could see him, and he could wear a mask. But the dentist said you're going to have an implant on it.
Oh wow!
So he spent all day Thursday, October the 22nd, at the oral surgeon getting prepped for a new implant where they do a bone graft and they do some stuff. But it was inpatient right there at the endodontist where he had that done. He came home and they gave him some antibiotics and everything, which is standard procedure. And I went and got all those filled. He didn't go out and do it. He stayed home. Took a nap, as I recall, and started on the medicine. On Friday, he got up and went to work in his office, which was the studio down the hall. He worked all day. That night was his birthday. And so we just had our immediate family, my daughter that lives close by, and our two younger daughters, and my niece, people that we had already socialized, kind of that were already in our little tribe and knew where they were going. And then even some of them wore masks. My niece even wore a mask, and Rick didn't even let Rick blow the candle out, because you're taking these precautions at a birthday party, during COVID. So, but we had his birthday party, and we had a lot of laughs, and he played games with his grandsons, and it was a great day. Saturday, he always worked Saturday. He worked Saturday. Sunday, his day off, pretty much normal day. But then that night, he started getting the chills, and he was telling me, I'm just feel like I'm freezing. And he was, with a zip and a hoodie over his head and just freezing. I'm like, well, what's going on? Maybe. And then I thought to myself, aha, I bet that antibiotic, here I am, Dr. Christie, by the way, I should have told you that. I bet that antibiotic isn't strong enough. We better call. Maybe you need a stronger antibiotic for the tooth surgery that you had. But he just ended up getting sicker, and we ended up calling the doctor and getting a virtual Zoom meeting with the nurse practitioner. I had one of those oxygenators, that had on my dad, that it kept showing 82, which I know it's supposed to be 90 or 92 from experience that I had with my dad. I was like, oh, is this broken? You're starting to think, because he wasn't running a fever, but he was shivering and just exhausted, couldn't get out of bed.
So not the typical, what we were hearing on the news as typical COVID indicators.
Absolutely. Just the exhaustion was there and weak, and I remember saying, well, why don't you get up, take a shower before we do the Zoom call so you can tell her how you feel. He just didn't even have the energy to do that. But no fever and no cough, no sneezing, no loss of smell. So anyway, she, after reviewing that, she said, I think we better just have you go to the emergency room. So he went to I dropped him. I couldn't go in. I dropped him off at the IU Saxony emergency room, and he went in there, and he was there almost 2 days, and they ran all the different tests, and he wasn't showing classic signs. And when it finally did come back positive, the nurses were really surprised that it was COVID, because he didn't have
the symptoms.
Well, I'll tell you how much he didn't have the symptoms, and I'm sorry, honey, because I'm going to tell on you. He was hungry on Tuesday night after I dropped him off. And
so he had an appetite.
He had an appetite. So he had a Donato's pizza delivered to the emergency room, and they brought a pizza up to him. So he had a pizza, and even Wednesday when I talked to him, he was thinking about eating the rest of his leftover pizza because he didn't think the food was that good at the hospital. I'm sorry, Saxony. But anyway.
It's hospital food.
It's hospital food. But again, that's just not
an indicator
at all. So, and of course they recommended, once Rick was positive, that the whole rest of the family get tested. And I didn't think I had it, but I went, we got tested, and I did come back positive.
Okay.
Our youngest daughter lived with us. She came back negative, so she was trying to take care of me and quarantine me in the house. The same time Rick's in the hospital. Then I get a call Thursday at 2:00 in the afternoon. He said the doctor's coming in because you can't see him, you can't go see him. It's all over the phone. He wants to have a conference call with us, and they want to put me on the ventilator.
Wow.
And I said, whoa, wait, are you sure? No, because of all the stories that we've heard. And Rick and I had discussed it a couple times. He said, even if I get it, I think I can beat it. I mean, he said that to me, even though we were doing all that. And so he says, the doctor's really, it's your best chance, and we will have to transfer you to IU North because they don't really have the facility there to take care of him. So what was kind of scary to me is they went ahead and put him on the vent at Saxony, and then transferred him already on the vent to IU North.
Oh, wow.
And since
frightening.
It was frightening, extremely frightening. And since I couldn't go and be with him, I have a daughter that was able to go and just kind of peek in the window when he got to IU North, and they kind of explained a few things. And then he was on that ventilator for 21 days. He was on the paralytic. He was put in the coma. He would have good days, and we'd think we'd see some turning around. They had him on his belly like they do. I immediately, that night that they told me they were doing that, called my friend Rodney, actually on the messenger on Facebook, and said, Rodney, I know you've been through this. What can I do? Rodney loves music. Rick loved music. He said one thing that really helped him a lot was his wife brought a CD player in and his music. So the girls and I gathered up Rick's favorite. He was a huge Beach Boys fan, huge Beatles fan.
Yeah.
All kinds of music. So we got all those together so he could have that while he was in there. The nurses and the staff at IU were amazing. My favorite nurse, Elizabeth, she would actually put the phone up so I could just talk to Rick, even though he wasn't responding. It was a comfort me, and so twice a day I would try to call about him twice a day, and I would try to at least talk to him once a day by having the phone up there to him. We never did have the tablets or anything.
Okay.
So Adrian ended up getting COVID a couple days after me. So our quarantine period ended up being longer than the 10 to 14 days because I kind of into her. So I didn't get out of quarantine until November the 15th.
Oh, wow.
And it took the head of infectious medicine at IU to allow me to come because at first they were saying I would have to test negative for COVID before I could come and visit Rick. But I don't know if anybody knows, but even for a while after you've had COVID, you're going to test positive for it. So I was like, this is like a game I can't win, you know? Luckily, I had another daughter that had set up some meal services for me and my daughter that were home, But the most thing is those isolating feeling that I had and also so just vulnerable and not knowing what to do. Usually I'm a kind of person that likes, okay, what can I do? How can I get this done? I can problem solve all day long. But with COVID, it's
brand new. There's no one who's gone through this on this planet. Like Spanish flu was generations and generations ago, so no one was on this planet who had gone through something like this. So we didn't have a grandmother to call, to say what do I do the way we do about other illnesses.
Thinking that what Rick had said, I think I can beat it if I get it. His last text to me at 2:30 on that Thursday afternoon was, "Remember all how I love you." So I hold that onto that, and I still hold on to that, and I keep that. And I know he wasn't ready. I know he was fighting as hard as he could. I could tell from the different days when things would be a little bit better and they'd start to be able to wean him off of it, and then they'd have to go back. And so it was like that. Finally, on that 15th of November, they let me come and see him. So, but he was still on the paralytic and in the coma and hooked up to stuff like I've never seen, and I've seen a lot. And from where I've been in my life and knowing my husband, I know quality of life is real important to him. And I know he was fighting to have that normal quality of life, and if that wasn't going to be possible, then I think that's where he decided that he'd go ahead and help us from above instead of being here with us. But I did get to see him for a couple of hours that day. The next day was our wedding anniversary, and the doctor said to me, we're probably going to have to make some tough decisions. And when I told him it was our 30th wedding anniversary, he said, okay, we're not making any tough decisions today. So my daughters, because Rick and I had planned to have a big party, but we knew then with COVID, he said, well, we'll have it the next year. We'll have a modified. Because you wouldn't know it to look at me, but I'm really into wedding cake.
So
you need a cake. I love cake. Okay, so my daughters took me to the cake bake, and so we had a nice cake bake that day.
Oh, good.
And my stepdaughter came in, and we had some conversations with the doctor, and it was just hard to be the one to say, let's take him off the vent, and but the next morning we went to the hospital, and Rick and God made up their mind. We didn't have to do that. And pretty much as soon as Courtney and I went in, he started saying goodbye to us. I mean, with his blood pressure dropping and all that kind of stuff. And
it's almost like a gift that he was able to give to you, so you didn't have to make that decision.
No, I didn't.
Still looking out for you.
Absolutely. And that's my guy. That's the kind of stuff he did. He decided that, no, because even his daughter is a nurse, and he'd always said, Courtney, you're going to have to be the one. No daughter wants to do that either. And so, no, they decided they would go. But And that was hard, and it was hard to say goodbye and with the girls, and it's still hard now 8 months later. Probably if I could do anything, make any changes going forward for people, is then after he's passed, really the harshness of losing someone who has had COVID. You can't have a traditional service. You can't have, we had to wait 20 days before we could even have a service. It was December then when we were going to have a service, and you couldn't have anything indoors with more than 10 people. My immediate family is more than that. Luckily, God graced us with a beautiful day, so we could have all of our immediate family outside, because then you could have 20. You couldn't go to the funeral home and make decisions like you do normally. So that was all like, that whole feeling like, whoa, nobody, you know, you're untouchable, you know, and losing someone, you know, even you kind of felt funny in the neighborhood to tell neighbors and stuff that you lost your husband COVID, because you didn't know how they were going to then feel about you or you being around. And
I think that's one thing that we don't hear about very much, is sort of the stigma that has been attached to being infected with COVID and having that virus, that because there was so much fear, especially in the beginning when people didn't know what or how and how long you would live if you were infected, and is it age, is it previous conditions, is it whatever. And so that sort of fear has kind of morphed into a stigma. And I think that is something that we don't hear about enough, so that we can remember to just be kind.
That's exactly it, Rashida. That's exactly it. And if I could say anything, you know, and I think about that, and I have a daughter now that works at the Damien Center, you know, just be kind to people, no matter what, that they're all dealing with what you have. And, you know, our family dealing with Rick being sick, I don't want that to happen to my neighbor's family. I don't want that to happen to anybody else. But if it did, I would hope I would have the compassion and just the plain kindness. Because you do feel bad. You know, nobody wants to see you. You can't come there. Nobody, you know, I mean, it just was really strange.
And fear can allow us to behave in a way that we wouldn't normally. So if he was sick with, you know, the flu, or even, you know, a cancer, because we hear a lot about it, and we know that we're not going to get cancer just from being in the same room, it would be probably a different sort of reaction from folks. So we have to remember that our fear can make us act in a way that we normally wouldn't. So we may want to just put our fear in check, and we know what the precautions are, and just take those precautions, and then be the help that we actually want to be for the people that we care about.
Yeah, that's absolutely. And so it was a huge eye opener in that, and feeling, I felt like he already had gotten cheated by COVID, and then a little bit cheated again with be able to have the kind of service that you would want to have for him, be able to have friends and family that you would want. I mean, his mother was still alive at the time. He couldn't even have her. You know, it wasn't fair. He deserved more, you know, and I kept trying to think for my grandsons, you know, I wanted it to be them to know, you know, you did have a wonderful grandfather who did deserve, you know, a whole whatever band, if you wanted to have it or whatever. But we had to keep it really simple and small, which ended up being nice, you know, but it's still, you know, I just didn't want him to, he already lost enough. I didn't want him to have to lose any more.
Absolutely.
And, or the girls either. But I think he'd be pretty proud of us. It has been 8 months. It's been tough. We still have our moments, and you hear all this stuff now that I'm in this club that I didn't want to be in, the Widows Club, and you know, don't do anything for a year. I'm starting to understand why they say that, to take your time, take it one day at a time. I am grateful for a lot of the support I got from family and friends and Facebook. We had while Rick was in there, we'd have nights where everybody would come together in prayer. I have a moment of prayer, and a lot of that was an inspiration that I got, like from Rodney, who told me things that they did, you know, just because you feel like you can't control the situation, so you're trying to do anything. We did a blood drive in Rick's honor.
Wow.
So we thought that is another way that you could help back, and they really desperately need blood. So anybody that can blood, and if you got
donate,
anybody,
if
donate.
you can,
yeah,
donate.
That's another way to honor these folks. So we did do that, and I do want to just say, you know, I know there's all these people that won't get vaxxed or don't feel comfortable getting vaxxed, and then there's people that didn't want to wear a mask and didn't feel comfortable wearing a mask. It's both are such a small thing, really. You know, if we can save somebody else, somebody else's husband, somebody else's dad, you know, just help each other and be kind. It really isn't a hardship, but I know the kids are all worried about going back to school and how will they do it, and I just think we have to put our faith in God and move forward and
use what we know.
Use what we know.
We've been told. Yeah, we've been told how to stay safe, and so if we can just abide by those rules and take care of each other as fellow humans, you know, on this planet, just looking out for each other. And if the mask isn't for you, then it's for someone else. You know, if the vaccine isn't for you, it's for someone else. And hopefully, you know, we can keep more people on this planet for a little bit longer. I will say that I think that Rick did an amazing job with loving on all of his girls. Because you all have created a beautiful legacy for him. And I never got to meet Rick, but I feel like I know him. I definitely feel like he's here in this room with us. Not even just physically in this picture, but he is here and he is loving the way that you're telling his story. I am certain. And awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story, sharing Rick with us, and being a part of this amazing experience. And we will continue to keep you and your family in our prayers as you find what life looks like now in this new world.
It's a new picture. He's not here to draw it for me, so I gotta do a little freestyle. But,
absolutely. But I know that whatever it is that you all decide to do and how you move forward, he will be honored in the most beautiful way.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Much.
And I appreciate you and Rodney and this whole C19 experience. It's a wonderful thing, and it helped you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for being a part of this.
Right. Thank you.